Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Tactical Harmony. And I am thrilled to bring on today's guest. This is going to be such a special episode because I am bringing on the one and only Melanie Borden. Melanie Borden is the founder of the Borden Group, an executive visibility advisory firm helping leaders translate expertise into measurable growth across modern search. She's a trusted personal brand strategist and GTM advisor for leaders to align their expertise with their digital presence and future proof their careers. Melanie, welcome to the Tactical Harmony Show.
Thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh, I am so excited. And for those of you who are watching us on YouTube, she's got the most beautiful background. It's a snowy winter wonderland.
Who knew New Jersey had this beautiful winter picturesque look?
It's so pretty. It's so amazing. Well, Melanie, clearly your biography is so impressive and I am so curious. Can you give us a high-level overview of your professional or personal journey that led you to the level of success that you hold today?
Absolutely. So I started my career in the car business or the automotive industry. And a lot of people who know me as Melanie, who worked in automotive. And I spent most of my time working in sales and marketing and consulting roles until about 2021. Right before that time, my last role, I was working for a MarTech agency, working as the vice president of marketing. There were a couple of awards that I had won, including Women in Retail, 40 Under 40. And at that point in time, it was right after the pandemic, and I was really trying to figure out how do I future proof my own career? What do I do if the pandemic happens? Because I was watching everyone around me getting laid off. And it was really a come to Jesus moment for myself where I had to figure out what am I going to do if this doesn't work out for me. I really had not spent a lot of time on social media. I had always been working for someone else, helping someone else's brand, whether it was working in house or it was having a client who I was helping or working with. So during that period of time between 2020 and 2021, I started becoming very active on LinkedIn. And at that time, there wasn't a lot of people who were really paying attention to it. People were starting to flock to LinkedIn, if you will, because all of a sudden everyone who was in an office was now working remotely or working partly in an office or partly remotely. And I was working completely remote. And so one thing led to another. I was working for someone else as the VP of marketing, and I started getting messages from people on LinkedIn saying, "Can you do for me what you did for yourself?" And so this became the common thread that I kept hearing over time. And so I decided to quit my job and to start my own agency. Initially, I was planning to just be a marketing consultant, and it evolved from one thing to another, and it became the Boarding Group. And we work with clients all over the world. We also have been, I have personally have been featured in LA Weekly as top personal branding experts to follow. And it's just been a really exciting, wild journey. But it really all started with me making a decision that what I was doing wasn't working anymore. And I needed to start doing something else. And that's really what led me to this point was really just taking a chance and willing to kind of put myself out there in a way that I had never done before.
Wow, that's incredible. So thank you for sharing that. That is so inspiring, I'm sure, to so many people that are listening to this right now. One question that jumps out to me is when you explained how you quit your job to start your own company. That is bold. That is a big swing and a big move, and I know so many people, Melanie, who are in that state right now who are just, well, let me wait until I make enough money to make that transition, or maybe next year, or let me wait for XYZ. And you didn't do that. So my question for you is, did was it a mindset shift for you? Was there something internal or some leverage that you had on yourself where you're like, "No, enough is enough. this is my move, and that level of conviction? Like, walk me through that.
What it really comes down to is I was very unhappy. And, just being in a state of unhappiness, it was something that I had really never experienced as much. And I really felt like I was meant for more, but I couldn't understand really what it was. But I had a feeling inside of me that said, just do it. It was absolutely terrifying. I mean, just being responsible for my family and, the mortgage and just all the things, insurance. And so there were a lot of reasons to not do it. I remember the first time I had a conversation with my parents about it. My dad almost was asking me if I was asking him for permission. And I said, no, this is what I did. I'm starting my own business. And so it was definitely a scary thing for me because it felt very risky, but I just had to understand that my parachute was going to open at some point. And I just had to believe the end process was going to be all right, if this doesn't work out, it's going to be okay. And the reframe that my partner kept saying to me is, what if it works out even better than you expected? And that was really a switch in a mindset that I wasn't naturally born with, to start thinking in that way and having that type of optimism and positivity, where I really had to start training myself to start thinking differently about the outcomes that I wanted. Because just like with being in a role that I wasn't really happy, or in a career that I wasn't happy with, I had to make a change, because it's that old saying, you can't expect a change if you're doing the same thing over and over and over again.
I hope everyone is taking copious notes. That was amazing. And there's a few things that I wanted to pull the thread on here, one of which is fear. I love how you were so candid to say, yeah, I was terrified. Yeah, it was fearful. I felt it. But despite feeling that, you moved anyways. And that is something that we talk a lot about in Tactical Harmony, that the point isn't to extinguish fear or to remove it, because it's a very natural part of our human experience. It's designed to keep us safe. But knowing that it's a signal and it's nothing more than data, and you're like, okay, let me assess it, let me figure it out, and you moved anyways. So that's one huge thing. And something else, Melanie, that you talked about was having that mindset reframe and the question that you were kind of asking yourself. And this is something that is so huge, because the quality of questions that we ask determine the quality of the answers that we get. So that what if question, like what if it's even more amazing and like just beyond than what you could possibly experience, and look at what you've created for yourself, what you've created for others. I know personally you've impacted my brand so much, and I am so thankful. So that is absolutely amazing. And I want to applaud you for that, because I know a lot of people that are listening right now, there's something on their heart, there's something on their mind, and they're like, oh, I can't make the leap. It's too scary. But like you said, that parachute will open. There's not an option. The parachute is going to open. And I am totally stealing that saying, by the way. I think that's incredible. Okay. Question for you, Melanie. What would be a non negotiable habit or practice that you do that keeps you operating at peak performance?
So, this is a really interesting question because there was something that I was doing for a long time that I had stopped doing. And I had found that the way that I was thinking started becoming affected pretty deeply when I stopped doing this one thing. And that one thing is running. And something happens within you, your body's chemical makeup, where when you are exercising at a certain level and you have a certain level of intensity, it really rewires the way that you think based on everything that's happening to you inside of you. And there are other ways to duplicate this other than running. But for a period of time, actually, during some of the period that I was writing my book, I had stopped running. I was just feeling very beaten up, just in general, from doing these half marathons and constantly training at a high level where I just needed to give my body a break. And I started feeling much differently. And I noticed that when I'm listening to music at a certain beat per minute and I'm exercising, something happens where it's changing the way that I think and my the outcome of thinking. And so to me at this point in time, there has to be some level of activity that I'm doing, even if it's just going for a walk or even if it's just doing some sort of meditation or yoga. There has to be movement in my body every single day in order to continue to operate at the same level that I always have and not to take those breaks from doing it.
That's incredible. I love how you're like, "Yeah, I was doing all these half marathons." I mean, it's inspirational because I know a lot of folks have that on their bucket list to either do a half marathon or a marathon or whatever it is, but I couldn't agree more, and it's, my background in federal law enforcement and, just working alongside and supporting our military and our war fighters, physical training, PT is a part of it. It's integral, and that's for a reason. And I think that we should always shine a light on that because that physical training, you're taming your body, you're taming your mind. You're taming your body, you're feeling good, you're physically fit, you're moving that blood and like you said the biochemical reactions and all of the amazing benefits that you receive physically also affects you mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And of course that's something that we ping on here and tactical harmony is the essence of holistic leadership and having that mind body spirit connection. It's so beautifully integrated and you've cracked the code. And I love how when we realize that inner knowing, like you were talking about, like that intuition that yeah, I need to move, and that music and that beats per minute and how it affects our brain and our neurons, and it's visceral. I think that's so beautiful, absolutely incredible. Okay, question number 2 for you is you've worked in such a variety of spaces, and I'm so excited to hear your answer on this one. What separates good leaders from great leaders?
Yeah, that's such a great question. Pertaining to the work that I do, I think that what separates them is really the understanding of presence and visibility, and that others who are on their team also need to have presence and visibility, and it should all be connected and really giving support to that. I've worked with so many people over the years that have come to me and said, I want to do this, but I can't because of X, Y, and Z, because I have to go through legal to have this podcast appearance approved. I have to go through marketing in order to craft a post. I have to do X, Y, and Z. And a lot of times it comes down to who's at the top, understanding that a much larger company, you might not necessarily have access to those in the C suite. However, it really good leaders under great leaders really understand that it's not about them, and their ego has nothing to do with those who work for them being able to impact others at scale. And great leaders should want those who work for them to leave in a better position than when they left, than when they first came to work for them.
I love that. Yeah, that presence and visibility, that's it, and it really is, it's a sense of empowerment. It's empowering yourself as a leader, and it's empowering your team and those around you. Presence is such a beautiful word, and it's such a gift, and it's something that again, in federal law enforcement, you have your presence as an officer, right? You have to have that commanding presence, and it's palpable. It's something that you can feel. And when you feel that way and you are empowered, you're going to want to do more. You're gonna be happier and motivated, you're gonna produce more, and then that just has a compounding effect, and I really believe that in leadership, the basics are often overlooked, and it's those basic human things, earning the trust, earning the respect, ensuring that your folks feel that presence and that receive that visibility, and then with that, they're able to blossom like a flower, so to speak. If you were to give advice to your 20 or 25-year-old self, or maybe someone right now is kind of starting off their career or maybe in the middle of their career, what advice would you give that person?
This is so good. I think this is the ultimate question. One plus one does not equal two when it comes to your career. And I know
Amen.
you know this well. So if I think back on my career, I think about I went to school, I went to Fashion Institute of Technology in New York studying jewelry design. I was working in advertising sales. I went into the auto industry. I had my real estate license. My path has not been linear. It just hasn't. And I think a lot of times we get caught up. I know, especially if you have a 19 in your birth year, which we both do. When you have that, you get caught in this, okay, well, I have to do this in order to get to there. And that's why I say one plus one does not equal two, because it doesn't matter where you've been because you can start with what you know. And a lot of times, the experiences that we have are really what makes us unique because the things that people are saying online, they're not original. Nothing is really original. But what is original are the experiences that we've had. So over time, your visibility compounds and it almost is a benefit to have a path that has not been completely one straight line because you come with so many different perspectives and experiences that make you who you are. And it just lends to the experience that you can then help others with.
I could not agree more. That diversity of experience lends to diversity of thought, and it gives you that confidence to be able to pivot when needed. And it kind of, in my experience, it kind of dims the intensity and strength of fear a bit. Like if she can do it, I can do it. If this person can go from, the auto industry and they have founded their own company and they did all these things and they wrote a book, well, I can do it too. And it really just reinforces the human potential, which I am fascinated with because people can do anything. I mean, remember when the 4-minute mile was an impossibility and then the 4-minute mile happened and everyone's like, "Oh, wait a minute, I can do that." And then you started to see others do it because evidence is the loudest voice. And it gives you that level of confidence. Again, if they can do it, I can do it. So it's way beyond inspiration at that point. So I love that. Okay, so in the spirit of pivoting, I would love, Melanie, if you could tell us a little bit about your book that is about to drop.
I would love to. So, my book is called Theater of the Mind. And theater of the mind is actually a term that I heard when I was working in the auto industry. And the way that I heard it was during our Monday morning 8 a.m. leadership meetings. It was the entire sales team. And just to kind of set the stage, if you will, the company that I worked for was a highline or luxury automotive group. And this was the role that I had taken right before the role where I was working in Martech. And our COO would lead these meetings and he would talk about customers coming into the showroom and how you're treating them and how you want them to feel. And theater of the mind essentially was this play on words. And so it's just something that had always stuck with me. The origin of theater of the mind is from the 1930s from radio when people before television, people used to sit around their radio and they would listen to Westerns and they would have to imagine this experience. And so when I started working in this personal brand space, what I started to realize is that there's so much that goes on internally that people aren't talking about. There's a tremendous amount of fear that happens behind the scenes. And I had really never seen or heard of anybody talking about fear in the context of online visibility. And it is something that I felt very strongly about when I started writing the book. And I still do feel incredibly strong that it is an experience that happens to almost everyone. There's a lot of inner self talk, sometimes self doubt. There's a huge amount of fear of failure that does happen, especially with those who may have unresolved things from their past that have nothing to do with their career. But when it comes to putting themselves out in a public way, they freeze. And so the book essentially deconstructs what you go through, what someone can do to combat those different fears, different techniques and strategies. And I share a lot within the book about my own journey because as I was writing the book, I was going through a lot personally. And I started developing while I was writing the book imposter syndrome, which was something that I really never thought was a real thing until I started experiencing it and doing research and realizing, wow, this is what I'm actually going through right now. Going and writing the book, I rewrote it about 3 times, and it took me a year and a half to complete it because of the things that were going on in my own head. And I document that in the book, which makes it even more relatable for someone who's experiencing it for a different medium, i.e., going on podcasts, going on stage, posting on LinkedIn, whatever it is they're going through. So it really is a handbook for someone. It's the handbook that I needed when I first got started with putting myself out into the public light, if you will.
I love that. And the name of the book alone, Theater of the Mind, from the moment I've heard of it, I absolutely love it. It is so true. And it just shines a light on all of the important stuff without sugarcoating it. Hey, this is the real stuff. This is what you go through when you increase your visibility or when you're considering to go online. And that is so important right now when there are so many people and professionals shifting to online and shifting their presence in whatever form or whatever their craft could be. And y'all, I got a little preview of the book, and I'm just going to say it is absolute gold. It is money. It is amazing. So, Melanie, can you tell us when is the book going to drop and, where can we find it? Because I know that people are going to want to get it immediately.
Absolutely. So the book is officially coming out January 2nd, 2026. And you can get it on Amazon and essentially anywhere worldwide that books are sold. And it will be available in Q1, it'll be available in both the paperback as well as the ebook. And then in Q2, I am going to come out with the hardcover. And then Q3, I'm going to be doing the audiobook version of it.
Oh, we got an audiobook for oh gosh. Okay.
I've already been asked. There's so many people who said, "Are you gonna have an audiobook?" And I said, "Yes, I will."
It's gonna happen, right? The parachute will open. The parachute is gonna open. Okay, that's amazing. And you know what? The timing of when we're gonna drop this episode, if you're listening to this, the book is out. So get your butt out there. Make sure that you grab it. Theater of the Mind by Melanie Borden. Again, it is amazing, and she has got some rock stars in that book, y'all. Like it's amazing. Okay, Melanie, as we conclude our time here together today, you gave so many amazing nuggets and so many inspirational things. And beyond inspiration, it's where the rubber meets the road and where you can actually excel and move forward, create the confidence, get the momentum going, and get results. And my last question for you before we part ways today is if the audience heard nothing else except for this one clip, what's the one thing that you would like to leave our audience with here today?
Stop waiting to be chosen. At the end of the day, no one else is going to promote you. No one else is going to give you permission. You have to do it yourself. Stop waiting for whatever you need to wait for and just you have to take action. The only way to move through fear of anything is to take action and just stop waiting and to do it. It is not easy to do. Otherwise, everybody would be fearless, but it is something that I strongly recommend is just stop waiting to be chosen, choose yourself and choose your future because whatever you want it to look like, it can happen as long as you take action and those steps to get there and just believe that it's going to happen.
Melanie, thank you so much for your time today. This has been an amazing conversation. And I would like to leave our audience with where can they find you if they would like to hire you for their own brand or reach out to you? Where could they find you?
Absolutely. So they can find me on my website, humantobrand.com. Also, my handle on Instagram and TikTok is both human to brand and on LinkedIn, Melanie Borden.
And again, human to brand, the humanity part of it. That is just absolutely beautiful. Well, Melanie, again, thank you for your time. I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for
Yeah.
all of your wisdom that you've imparted to all of us today. I wish you a blessed, wonderful day. And again, all of my love.
Thanks, Rebecca.